Hey, what's up, guys? This is. Okay. Yeah, just hang on one second. Nope. Let's see. Try the green. Nope. Aha. Hmm. Okay. Hello there. Oh, you want to trade? Alright. So, goofy demo aside, you're probably wondering what that was all about. So that was just a demo to show how these machines operate. And this is what we call an interporter or an interpearl stasis machine or stasis chamber. But you can use them to teleport on the fly. So I will get into what these machines are, how they operate, and why they are completely pointless in Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Alright, so an Ender Pearl Stasis machine. So they are very popular in Java, especially lately because the Java developers have made them much easier and much better for the players. But what this is essentially a machine that we can throw an Ender Pearl into, and the Ender Pearl will stay there, and we can use it on the fly to be teleported on demand. So we throw an Ender Pearl in there, we can turn off the clock, and you can see that the Ender Pearl just stays there. And technically, the Ender Pearl will never despawn, so it will always be there. And then using this machine, so the only thing I have here is my previously shown wireless redstone with a 4-bit address, and that is just going to a simple pulse extender delay, which just the point of that is just to hold the piston open to give the Ender Pearl enough time to fall and hit the ground. So the demo, so even though all this stuff can be made in a normal survival world, you could certainly make this. It has very limited use, and I'll tell you why. In Bedrock Edition, an Ender Pearl, even though you could put it in one of these machines and it will literally stay here, forever and never despawn. The problem is that if we unload the area, then the Ender Pearl becomes inactive and can no longer teleport you, so it breaks. Likewise, if you log out and log back in, the Ender Pearl is going to break. So we have very limited use in a normal game. Now, I'm kind of cheating because if you go back and look at the coordinates between all those locations that I was teleporting to, those are anywhere from a couple hundred blocks away to the yellow one was over 6,000 blocks away. So you could travel an infinite distance with these, but the problem is that we have to keep the chunk loaded. So I'm kind of cheating. I don't have commands or anything enabled. Of course, I am in creative, but in a survival world, you would have to use one of these guys, which is Foxy No Tail's chunk loader. So what Chuck does is he'll keep the area loaded, so that way I can set up an ender pearl, and it's never going to despawn, and that way I can use the wireless redstone.
Okay.
And you can use the wireless redstone from anywhere in the world. Build a simple transmitter, and this receiver can teleport me back to the location, from anywhere. But um, even though it is cool, it is pretty useless in a normal survival world. And the reason why is because this works better as a return system. So because of the deficiencies in the game, because of ender pearls losing the ability to teleport you when you unload them or log out of the game, you cannot teleport to a far off location. So you can't join your world at your base and then push a button and then go somewhere very far away. So even if the area is loaded with a chunk loader, you still have the problem of the game breaking the ender pearl when you log in. So in that case, this would be better as a return system. So you could set up an ender pearl, you could travel anywhere, set up a simple transmitter. If you had an entire new setup like this, then you could load an ender pearl there and then use the machines to travel back and forth throughout your game. But when you log in, you have to go to that location first. So in Java, so the Java developers are way ahead of Bedrock. So aside from not having to make a machine like this anymore, so in Java, the developers have just made it easier for the players. With the latest release, they can literally dig a hole with soul sand and water, throw the ender pearl in there, and it will continue to stay there. And if they unload the area, or if they log out of the game, the ender pearl can still teleport them. So they could, if they had a chunk loader, which they do, they could set up a four out location. You know, they could log out at their base, log back in, push a button, be teleported to the far off location, come back, you know. So it's much more useful in Java than it is in Bedrock. But if anybody wants to play around with this, I'll just go ahead and give you a tutorial on how these are made, and then we can get into some of the physics behind how the ender pearls work in Bedrock and why you should never watch any video about Java because the physics are completely different. So let's just say if this is the location that I wanted to be teleported to, then I'm going to put up a couple blocks. I'm going to put a sign here, and above that sign, we can go ahead and put in a soul sand, and then coming off the side of that, I'm just going to set up a piston. So the way that we activate an ender pearl is because we can create a water column here, which will hold the ender pearl in place. And then when we want to be teleported, you pull the soul sand back, and the ender pearl will fall down, hit the ground, and you'll be teleported. Okay. So anyway, on top of the soul sand, next to it, you want to have a block, and on top of that, go ahead and put down a sticky piston. And we're going to need 4 slime blocks on top of that. So this has all been, everything that I'm telling you now in the tutorial has all been very well researched. But anyway, so we're going to put in, excuse me, we're going to put in 5 temporary blocks here, or up to the 3rd slime block. So next, we're going to have to put in a block with a small hitbox here to be able to contain the water. And you'll see whenever we go to set up an ender pearl, you'll see why. So on the back here, you probably don't need glass, but whatever. Alright, so get rid of those temporary blocks. So next we're going to need to build a platform at the top. So we're going to need next to the slime block, we're going to need 6 temporary blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we're going to be placing our water source up here at the top. Okay. So next to the water source, so facing the pistons here, we want to put, or facing the slime blocks, you want to put a cobblestone wall here. So that way you can stand here and be able to see, like you're looking in the direction of the slime blocks. Yeah. So we can go ahead and put some signs. So you can use a cobblestone wall or any other type of wall. It doesn't matter, but it has to be a wall. Cannot be a fence. Cannot be a block. All right, and we're just going to build a little platform up here so that we can stand on it. And we're going to put in another sign there to keep the water in. And then we can remove all of these. All right, so once that is done, we can put in our water source there, and you'll see that it will flow down to the bottom. Okay, so now to be able to make a bubble column here with the new update, which is actually why this is able to work, but with the new update, we have to make a water source to make a bubble column work. So the way that I'm going to do that is just with kelp, and you only want to put kelp in up to the 3rd slime block, so don't go to the top one. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, next we can get rid of the temporary block, and then we can go ahead and put our torch back, and you can see that we have a bubble column. All right, so next we need to make a clock, and the way that we're going to do that is just by making a simple fast clock coming off of the piston there. So I'm going to use a comparator, and I need some dust. All right, so put a torch coming off the piston, dust going into a comparator. So that's our clock, but we can turn that on and off whenever we don't need it. So we're just going to use a lever here. Okay, so the design is complete. Now the way that you load an Ender Pearl, you turn the clock on, get up here and crouch on the wall, or hold shift, whatever they say for a keyboard. So you're going to want to be in, not there, you're going to want to be in the furthest corner of this wall. So get in the furthest corner. You want your cursor to be looking all the way down, and you're going to want to just turn in the direction of the slime blocks. So all the way in the corner, looking down, looking at the slime, and we're just going to throw an ender pearl in there. Okay? And then once the ender pearl is set up, you can just turn the clock off, and you're done. All right. So this is actually a very reliable setup as far as throwing in an ender pearl. There's only one issue that can happen, and that is sometimes the ender pearls, if you throw them just in the perfect location, the ender pearl can actually get stuck. And I don't know if I'll be able to recreate that. Oh, yeah, there's one there. Okay. So for whatever reason, the ender pearl gets stuck. So that ender pearl will despawn in like a minute's time. But all the other ender pearls here that are bouncing up and down, as long as an ender pearl continues to move, it will never despawn. So that will be here forever until it gets used. So to be able to use a machine, all you have to do now is send a redstone signal here, and that will pull back the block. allow the ender pearls to hit the ground, and you will be teleported. So if you're on, just say if you're on a realm and you're allowed to have an AFK account, then you can actually use one of these. You could set this up next to the AFK account. Uh, you can go off and explore, do whatever you want, and then just have the AFK account push a button, and you will instantly be teleported back. Like I said, in the survival world, you have to use a chunk loader. You have to learn how to use the wireless redstone. But aside from that, um, yeah, pretty much useless. I mean, unless you can figure out the simulation range and, put a couple of these around your base, you could chain these together. But as far as using these in a normal survival world, yeah, probably pointless. All right, so let's get into some of the physics behind how an ender pearl works in Bedrock. So ender pearls are only affected by two different things. So the first is a moving slime block. And it has to be a slime block because of the property of the slime blocks bouncing items. So because they can bounce, this is why this works. It does not work with honey blocks, but so moving slime blocks and water are the two things that affect an ender pearl. So here you can see we have a bubble column, and let's just say if I look at the horizon and throw an ender pearl, you can see that it pretty much gets launched right out, right? So it's like an ender pearl launcher. If we use magma block bubble column, try to look at the horizon here. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter all that much because, you know, you're not going to go very far. So the magma blocks pull it right down. So yeah, it works pretty much how you expect. As far as the moving blocks go, so in Java version, this operates much differently. So if you look up an Ender Pearl launcher, you may see a setup like this. So in Java, when you throw an Ender Pearl and then you hit it like this, the Ender Pearl, if thrown from that direction, will actually be deflected off at an angle, and you can get a much longer range with one of these than you can by throwing it. So in Bedrock, it operates differently. So whenever we throw an ender pearl at a moving slime block, so because the block here is moving up and down, as soon as the ender pearl touches it, it's going to, if it works properly, it's going to cancel out any inertia that the ender pearl had to move in any other direction except for the direction that the block is moving. Okay, so if I can just demonstrate that here, if I can get this kind of lined up properly. Yeah, so you can see it just goes straight up. Um, it doesn't go off in any direction, so the moving block cancels out every other direction. So we're using a couple different principles here. So of course we have the falling water at the top. Now the falling water is not necessary to make this work. We can still get up here, and the height that you're throwing from is very important. Oops, it fell right off. All right, so yeah, crouch, look down. So we can make this work even without the falling water. But to be able to set it up in a machine, the falling water actually helps to push down on the ender pearl, and so it helps you find this kind of equilibrium between the bouncing on the bubble column and between the falling water. So it's much easier to control the ender pearl, but it's not necessary. But the way that this works, you throw it into the bubble column. The bubble column is going to try to push the ender pearl back up, and as it does, it hits the side of the moving blocks here. And because these are moving up and down, they cancel any other energy that the ender pearl has to move sideways, and you're just left with the up and down here. Okay. So some other things to consider with the ender pearls if you want to try to design anything like this. So it will never be accurate. I don't know how they are in Java, but whether it's from the uh, inconsistency in the Perl or the problem with the random updates from the Redstone, whatever, the Ender Pearl is always going to hit someplace different. So if I can get this set up right again, right? So if you just see where we land, okay. So I threw three Ender Pearls, landed there, then landed there. So it's not reliable, So you're always going to have multiple slime blocks. Um, and just keep that in mind if you're trying to design anything. But otherwise, so some of the other things that actually might be useful. So I don't know if any of this stuff will be useful in a 4 chunk simulation range, because right now I think I'm at like a 12 chunk, right? And so if I try to throw an ender pearl, then I can get about, like 80 to 90 blocks just from throwing an ender pearl. Of course, in a 4 chunk simulation range, I don't know what they do. I don't know if they limit the range that you can throw them, because that would probably, you'd probably be throwing them outside of the simulation range, and I don't think they would let you do that. But if you're in a normal survival world and not a realm to where you have a larger simulation range, then you could actually set up some pretty useful tools like this, to where we just have like a platform here. And again, this is, well, I'll explain to you more how you make these in a second. But you can just have a setup here to where you throw an ender pearl, and at least with a 12 chunk range, I could travel about 300 blocks from a single ender pearl. So you could set up things like this across your world, to where, just say that if I had four of these, one in each cardinal direction, right? And then at the center of them, I could have like a bubble column like that. Then I could use these like highways, So I could come here, I want to go in that direction, throw the ender pearl in, you know, come up the bubble column, and I'm on the next platform, and then, I could keep going in whichever direction. Oh my goodness, my power just flashed. But anyway, the way that these are made is just two deep water with a line of soul sand underneath, and that's all you need to keep the ender pearl bouncing on top of the water. And they're reliable because uh, it's the ender pearl is not going to have any side to side energy, because we're pushing it in that direction. The only way, the only direction it can travel is straight, so it'll never hit anything else. It'll go straight along until it hits, your back wall. But anyway, you can see what that is. Just a 3 slime, sticky piston with some redstone. So put down a redstone directly above that, put down a block, and you can have your tripwire hooks and a string. And then the hole up here, the platform is 7 blocks high from this block. So you have 6 air blocks in between, and then on the 7th block you make your platform. The hole, you can see the hole is straight above the string, right? So the block where your string is, that is going to be where your hole is. And then to throw an ender pearl in here, you just push up all the way against the wall. Again, cursor all the way down, crouch. For whatever reason, crouching makes it more accurate. So crouch and throw the string, and there you go. All right. So some other redstoneless technology. So like I said, you could still go like 200 or 300 blocks just by throwing an ender pearl across the water. So if you don't want any redstone or highways, just say that you had an ocean. Um, the deeper the water is, you could actually put every other block as being a soul sand. So in this case, because the water is so deep, I can just replace half of these with a normal block, and then just think that if I was on an ocean, all you have to do is just throw the ender pearl down, and it will just bounce across the water. So if you're only going too deep, if you're going too deep with the water, then you're going to have to use soul sand pretty much every one. But um, anyway, so you can make these 2 or 3 wide to make them more reliable. But you just look in the direction that you want to go, throw the ender pearl in, and you can go, at least a couple hundred blocks with a larger simulation range. So it's a very easy, very fast form of travel. Again, if you're in an ocean, you could go every other block and just put them down at the bottom of the ocean, and then just throw your ender pearl across the top of the water, and there you go. No boats, no gunpowder, no elytra, and you can travel. So anyway, that's kind of the ins and outs of ender pearls and Bedrock. Um, I hope they actually do try to achieve parity in this case with Java, to where they actually stay loaded and you can log in and log out and still be able to use them. That might make this more viable in a survival game. But anyway, that's just some of the things I found out, and I guess that is all for today. So I will see y'all in the next video.